Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Michelle Briggs, with Your Personal Real Estate. Today we are starting our program with James Healy. He is the owner and founder of Healy Consulting. How are you doing today, James?
Just fine. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for being here today. So tell me a little bit about you and what led you to creating Healy Consulting.
I'm a native Houstonian. Lived here all my life. I've been in the construction business about 35 years. Done everything from residential remodeling, insurance loss repair, to tilt wall warehouse buildings, schools, offices, retail centers, steel metal buildings. And I started Healy Consulting really because when you're doing schools and big retail areas and stuff, working with major corporations and public entities, they all have construction departments that help oversee the projects. And individuals, homeowners, and small businesses, they don't build all the time. They don't need a full-time construction project manager. But when they do have a project, it helps to have somebody on their side, sitting on their side of the table. So.
Well, I did let everyone know that you are on our side. And I love that because there's so much to construction, to new construction, to renovations, remodeling. There's so much to it. Now, what is the difference between residential and commercial construction for you?
Really, I mean, it's just the number of people involved in a commercial project is just usually a whole lot more. And also the zeros at the end of the project. They usually cost a lot more. But at the same time, you know, when you're building a school, you really appreciate how necessary all the paperwork is and how the documentation, how important it is. And all that really comes in handy also when you're remodeling your kitchen. It's not as much of it, but you need to keep track of what's going on.
Well, in the real estate world, when we're looking at commercial transactions compared to residential transactions, even inside of residential transactions, I always say you have the right to seek counsel. In commercial real estate transactions, and the 2 decades I spent in the title industry, we dealt a lot with attorneys when we were completing commercial transactions, so I get the world of that. Now, what is a construction consultant?
Well, like you're in the real estate business, real estate agents, their job is basically to give people who are buying or selling a home expertise and advice and help them manage the process, work them through it. Insurance agents are the same. They help them figure out all the different insurances they need, the best place to get it, the best rates, and just help you navigate all that and give you advice. And a construction consultant does the same thing. He's not building it for you, but he's helping you. When you need a temporary, for the time you're doing your build project, you need someone on your side that knows construction, that knows the projects. Big corporations do it all the time, and it's a good idea for individuals and small businesses to do it too.
I would agree with that completely. So what are the most crucial parts of a construction project?
Really, it's the part everyone leaves out the most, and it's the details, the specifications. Those are where you're going to find all those eventually in the job. Take for example, if you're remodeling your kitchen, you're going to have to pick out the sink you're going to use eventually. But the appliances you pick out, the sink you pick out, that when you pick them out, if you don't do it at the beginning, it could cost you later on. For example, you can get all your millwork built and then realize that the appliances, the refrigerator you want doesn't fit. So getting that early on and having all that detail. Also, everything that you pick out after you've got a contract signed is potentially a change order. And I'm big on cutting down the number of change orders.
Well, I appreciate that greatly. It does happen. We get that it does happen. However, I really never thought about if you pick the wrong refrigerator. I mean, we're so used to the standard size, right? But it really depends when you're doing the custom builds. I mean, that is very crucial, and I agree with you on that. I just never thought about that. What advice would you give for someone thinking about an additional remodeling or a remodeling project?
Write down what you want. If you can't write it down, you're probably not going to be able to explain it thoroughly enough. And decide early on if you need an architect or design team to help you put it all together. If it's and write down what you're going to need and start making lists. When you get bids on it, get 3 bids. Not only is that going to help you get the best number, but getting the different bids is going to help you educate you, because each bid's going to come across differently. And also, if you have 3 bids, 2 of them are close together and one's off, even if it's a lot lower, it's probably wrong. The 2 that are close together are probably one of them's more accurate. And if they're all 3 together, then you know what your project's going to cost.
That is a good point. I, many years ago, used to manage apartments, and we did a $200,000 and $250,000 exterior rehab on the property. And my supervisor at the time said 3 bids on everything and go with the middle one. Don't go with the highest one, don't go with the lowest one, go with the middle one. Yeah. So I thought that was quite interesting. But you're right. I mean, that really kind of helps you establish that budget and what it's going to look like for the remodeling project. Now, with the, I guess you could say, what's been the most unusual construction experience for you?
There's been a lot of them.
Sure.
One of my favorites deals because it's one time we had a J-bolt, just so you know, a J-bolt is shaped like a J, and it's an anchor that you put in concrete to tie down buildings and stuff like that. And so what had happened is we had a guy who was going around erecting the steel on a small bank building, and the steel columns started falling over like they hadn't been bolted down. And we got him off his crane and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they had all the bolts on, and it turned out that the engineer had designed had specified an anchor bolt that was too big for where it was going. And the concrete company had a new hire and realized this problem and dutifully cut the end off of every single J-bolt, and so it would fit in the form. So he solved the problem, but also made all the J-bolts absolutely worthless. And so we had an entire building where all the anchors in the concrete were of no use. And no one got hit by a falling beam, but that was a learning experience. Sometimes it's more important to know why you're doing something than what you're doing.
Agreed. So what happened? How did you put more in? How did they fix that?
Well, and that's a big one too. Stuff like that happens. Something will happen like that pretty much on every job, and really you learn an awful lot with all that. And every job, I can honestly say I have learned something. Some things I hope I never learn again. But in that particular case, called out an engineer, the structural engineer, and there's epoxies and the chemicals and stuff like that. And he basically, you drop this epoxy pill down the hole that was formed by the anchor that didn't work, and you take an all thread and hit it with a hammer down in there, and then that foamed up epoxy anchors that thing, and it's there to this day.
That's amazing. I mean, they're right. There's a solution for everything.
Yeah.
There truly is a solution.
They tend to be more expensive than the first choice, but yeah.
Right. So residential. Now, do you primarily do residential, or are you primarily commercial?
Primarily commercial. If you're doing a small remodel or addition on your house, it may really not be that economical. But if you're doing a full build on a house, or a major remodel, or if you're not in the same city or state that your project's going, then you really ought to have someone going over and looking at it all the time. And I try to work it out for everybody. But most of the stuff that I do and the advice I give works for homes and in commercial. It goes both ways.
Great. Now, anywhere, if you're watching in Atlanta, Chicago, listening in, if you need someone in the Houston market, James is your guy. He can take care of you.
It's warmer here.
Yeah, yes, it is, definitely. You have a website that shares all of this great information. Is there anything else that you want to close with about the services that you provide? My goal is to help you be your expert when you need it for the short time that you need the experience, and basically help it make it a good experience. The contractors aren't out to get you, despite what everyone thinks. But understanding where they're coming from and helping prevent the issues that come up most of the time is really where I'm the most help. I found that very helpful when working with fee attorneys and having conversation with real estate attorneys about issues. And when they can speak the same language, it goes so much smoother.
Yes, and I find I end up helping the attorneys with that part of it too. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here, James. We really appreciate you and your services that you provide to us. And everyone, will be right back after this commercial break.
Thank you. Appreciate it.